Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Lana Kay. Last month we featured a Boone County hero. This show we will feature our very own Boone County author. Let's welcome local author Susan Troutt to the show. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Lana. I'm very happy to be here.
Now, of course, Susan has authored 8 books, but before we talk about those books, let's talk a little bit about you personally, Susan. Give us a little background.
I was a teacher for 30 years in Boone County. I taught at Ackerman Elementary and Burlington Elementary, mostly 4th grade. In 1991, I was chosen as Teacher of the Year, Boone County's Teacher of the Year, a huge honor. I love teaching. I love teaching and I loved writing. When you're a teacher, there are workshops that come up, and they ask for volunteers to attend the workshops. And so as a writing person, they let me go as the representative, and then I was expected to come back and talk to the teachers about this. So I learned so much that I could use with my students in the classroom as well as share with the teachers. So one year I had a class of children who said, "Oh, Mrs. Troutt, we don't like to write. We'll only write if you'll write." Well, okay, all right, I'll write along with you. So we wrote at the same time. The students shared their stories with the classroom. I shared my stories with the classroom. And then I would take their stories home and type them up and put them in notebooks. I still have the notebooks.
Of the children and you.
Yes, I miss teaching, but as an author, I visit classrooms and I talk about writing.
Wonderful, yes. Wonderful.
And I have
to encourage.
Yes, I have workshops for older students as well. If you need more information about this, you can look on my website at susantroutt, TROUTT.com.
Great, and we'll put that up at the end of the show too.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
I went to Valley High School, which at the time was the largest high school in the state of Kentucky. One of my teachers was the mother of John Mack Carter. Mr. Carter was the editor of Good Housekeeping magazine,
wow,
McCall's magazine, and Ladies' Home Journal. And his mother told me, "I never encourage my son to write, but Susan, I'm encouraging you to write. You have talent. I'm encouraging you to write." So that really stuck in my mind.
That inspired you. It had to have inspired you.
It sure did. My school was built in 1939, and I recently have been inducted into the High School Hall of Fame for my contributions to education and writing.
And writing.
Literature.
What an honor,
yes,
Susan.
Yes.
That is so impressive.
Yes.
Well, let's talk a little bit. Your teaching background then, because your genre has been middle grade readers.
Yes.
Okay, so you were 4th grade.
Yes.
Okay, does that give you more insight?
Teaching 4th grade?
Yeah, well, for your middle grade readers.
Yes.
That you're targeting, because you know these children better than their parents many times. Okay, so that's given you a big help.
Yes.
In reaching them.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Great, great. Well, let's take a look at the book.
Okay.
This is her 8th, and it's the missing persons list. And I want to tell you, Susan, I have read the book. I never interview an author or anybody without reading their book. Impressive, just great for her genre, for this age children. It's a very well done jacket. I want to hold it up again, because the school bus and the child watching it drive away, as you can see. And Susan, I'm not sure how much you want to divulge of the story, but our hero, our main character, let's say, is Devin. And Devin is watching this bus pull away, and of course this sets up the whole story. This begins Devin's journey. So it's a great read for young readers. And Devin meets a lot of people, Susan, through his, and learns many life lessons through his journey after this bus pulls away, which you tell us how much you want us, about however much you want us to learn about the story, and then still hold us to say, hey, I think I'll go buy that book.
Yes. Some of my books are humor, and some of my books are adventure stories, and one of them is just a little strange all around. But I wanted to write a survival story. So I started thinking, how can I put this together? What would you do if you found yourself in a deserted place and your cell phone didn't work. So you have to take, in a survival story, the characters away from their natural habitat.
Of course.
And since it's a child in the story, you also have to limit adult supervision.
Exactly.
So what I did was, Devon's mother has passed away, and he and his father have recently moved to a new town for a new beginning. So it's Devon's first day to ride the school bus home, the first day. And he gets on the school bus and he's thinking about his mother, and he falls asleep on the bus. So when he wakes up, a big burly man is standing over him and he says, "Time to get off the bus, son." And Devon looks out the window and this isn't where he lives. Nothing looks familiar. And he says, "This isn't my stop. Is this my stop?" And the driver says, "Well, it's the end of the line. I can't backtrack. I go north from here. Call your parents to pick you up." So Devon stumbles off the bus all alone, and he reaches into his book bag, and his cell phone is dead, and the bus drives away.
Wow.
So the story goes on, and there's a lot of pitfalls in the story, so Devon has to use his strength and his bravery and his resources to find his way home.
To find his way home.
Yes.
And Susan, the life lessons that I took away were he gained personal strength and resilience, autonomy. He overcame self-blame and guilt.
Yes.
Because you know, I don't want to give away a lot about the story, but he also became very brave, clever, and determined to make it back through all of this. Now, the part I might have liked the best was the spiritual aspect, because he relies on his signs that his mother is watching over. As Susan said, his mother has passed away. And so I just really believe that the power of love never ends. And I think that her book really strengthens Devon. And I just read a beautiful caption. I'm just going to put it out there. The love we show in this life will echo with us through eternity. And so I think that's beautiful.
It is.
And because it is true. I mean, you know, that's what we're going to take out. And that's what he would look to gain his strength from mother.
Yes, yes.
So, okay, Susan, now these are the things that I thought were beautiful. I love that there was the spiritual aspect also.
Thank you, thank you. You're probably wondering why his father doesn't come looking for him, and Devon wonders that too. Where's my dad? Why doesn't he come find me? Where is he? Why isn't he looking? Well,
but it's very good that you held us in suspense.
I have to tell you, though, his dad can't come looking.
Right.
There's been an accident.
Right, right. But you do think, until you find out, you held us in suspense with that, because why aren't they looking? Even though the cell phone doesn't work, where is somebody?
Yes.
And we really didn't know Mother had passed for a while.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm critiquing her now that she's saying, okay, yeah. Well, but really it's true. And then I thought, okay, now I understand.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So, okay, go right on, Susan.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of moral decisions in this book, too. And so it would be a great classroom read, or if a child's reading it at home, there'd be a good discussion on what's right and what's wrong.
And that is what children of today, and you know this better than I, so many times I'll see reports on television, you know, where the parents jumped in the fight, you know, at the ball game, and all of this. Susan, when we grew up, we were taught responsibility, and your teacher was right, and you respected them. And now the parents, it's almost like they won't let them become autonomous. They take up for them if they're wrong. They're still on their side. And your book really expands. Like you said, it'd be great for a classroom read.
It would.
For the children to understand. Hey, and you know, my dad, it was through our darkest times, would say, "Look, I'm doing this because we won't always be here, and my job is to teach you to stand on your own 2 feet," which we just thought, wah. But he really did.
Yes.
And they would have never took up for us at the ball. I mean, you know, the teacher was right. If we came home and we said, Miss Troutt said, well, they were right there with Miss Troutt. They would have never thought of coming up there and confronting Miss Troutt. But I know we have a lot of that now, and that's why her book is so important.
I think one of the takeaways for me in the book is that Devin learns that his life is determined by the choices that he makes.
That is
And that's important for all of us.
Excellent.
You can't blame other people.
Excellent advice, Susan. And I didn't think of that, but now as you say that, sure, that was the main, really the main gist. Okay, great. Now, I don't know how much for our viewers, Susan, and this is again to, adults, whoever's out there thinking, many authors, they have different techniques. Some, it's the outline. Some formulate the story. For you, Susan, like, did you formulate the story and then the characters and the lessons start coming into it? Or how, it's so much to contend with from an outsider's point of view.
We always talk about writers are either planners,
okay,
or pantsers, and that means they write by the seat of their pants. And so sometimes you don't know where the character is going to lead you in your writing. Now, I knew what I was going to start out with. I didn't know the pitfalls that Devin was going to encounter as he went on.
Okay.
And so at night before I go to sleep, I think about the book, and then in the morning, sometimes the idea is there, or I'll talk about it. My son's pretty good
At helping you, giving you an idea that maybe you didn't catch. But then, so now you have thanked a lot of people that were very important to you in the back of the book. So is that really important to have the support? I mean, this is your 8th book.
Yes.
Is it still important?
Yeah, well, I needed to find the legalities of what would happen to Devin or how the school would handle it, so I talked with my former principal, David Sammons, and his wife was the go-between. And so he gave me information about how it would be handled legally. And then I belong to a writers group. We meet in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, at the public library on the 2nd and 4th Thursday of each month.
Now, what happens there? Do you talk about your missing persons? Whatever you're working on.
Whatever we're working on. We have writer's prompts that we share. We write and share.
How does the feedback, what do you tell them I'm stuck?
Well,
how does that,
they help me with editing on this one.
Okay.
I would submit the manuscript to them, and then they would say, well, how about if you change this word, or how about if you make this stronger? So it's really a good resource for me. It's called Word Rights Guild. And Susan Ray and Dan Hawkins.
You thank them,
yes.
So it's still important, even though it's your 8th book, you need that writer's feedback and input.
Yes,
wow,
absolutely.
That is great.
Absolutely.
That is great. Well, Susan, we're coming now to the end. I want you to talk about anything you want to talk about before we get ready to close. Any adult books. Why don't you write an adult book? You're a great writer.
I have in my mind a short story book. I've probably written maybe 60 short stories, and they're short. So I thought I would compile them, but it's got to be an adult book because some of the stories
are certainly not for children.
That's exactly right. So
maybe those. So as you talk about your short stories, if they're thinking about, hey, I would like to write, but it seems so huge to write a book, start with articles maybe or short stories.
Absolutely.
Did you?
I did. When I was a teenager, I was a columnist for a local newspaper.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So you've been writing forever.
I love to write.
Teenager on. Okay. So when you say you love writing, you mean I love writing.
Yes.
Okay. So anything else, Susan? I mean, we're going to put her website up. And how can they buy your book?
Okay. Amazon is an all-night bookstore, and it's probably the easiest place to find my book. Barnes & Noble carries it sometimes, too.
Great.
So
great resources, and we'll write those 2 up at the end of our show. Susan, I hope that you, and I think you do, feel great personal satisfaction writing a book like this, just completing the book, and it's so helpful for your young people that you're concerned about. So do you feel gratification, satisfaction at the end? Do you feel good?
I do.
Was it all worth it?
When I retired from teaching, I cried for a while, and my husband said, "Stop crying and start writing." So my first book took me 9 months to write, and I wrote every day, all day, like it was a real job.
Wow.
And my husband traveled at that time, so there was a lot of alone time. And so when that book was published, I cried because I had to let go of these characters, and then I continued to write. And every book I write, I feel like is a little entity in itself, a little piece of me. And I always tell students when I visit, there are things in the book that are about me, but it's not my biography at all. And you'll find that with most authors.
Sure. It's a personal experience.
It's an experience.
Sure.
Exactly.
Sure, that makes total sense. Well, Susan, Susan and I are in book club together, so I do know her. And I'm at the end here. I just want to say, young people, learn to read. I mean, it will entertain you. It will broaden your vocabulary. Susan helped me out here. It will expand your mind. In our book club, we read books that we may not pick, but after we read them, there's always a takeaway usually.
That's correct.
It just our last one was World War I. We have been in all time phases, and it's wonderful. So I can't imagine not reading. I love it. So, and if you haven't, in older adults, it's just great to join your book club. You're retired, like Susan said, you've got to build a life. Join a book club, and then talk about that book.
Yes.
Yeah, we just love it. Well, you've been listening to Susan Troutt. She's our local author, The Missing Person List. Don't miss it. It's a wonderful read for the young people in your life. So, as always, you be happy and you keep smiling, and I'll see you soon.